Hey guys, yeah, you're not seeing things here. You are getting a AEW Dynamite review. This is for Grand Slam Night 1 of this 2-night event. The second night will be on Friday as a part of AEW Rampage, a 2-hour special edition, there, of AEW Rampage. And the reason I finally decided to watch it, because usually, I haven't been watching that much wrestling at times. I mean, I still am a fan of it. Don't get me wrong. And when I see wrestling, showcased either on YouTube or something like that for free, or I look at the highlights and everything. I pay attention to to kind of be in kind of in the now, if you will, as to what's going on. So that, let's say, with Bound for Glory coming up in October and Full Gear coming up in November, and then of course Extreme Rules this Sunday, I can have an idea of where things stand, as far as like storylines and everything are concerned. And the reason, and tonight I was going to do the same thing, but then when I heard, because the thing about Dynamite here on the West Coast, unlike when I used to live in Kansas, is basically it comes on at the same time it comes on out there. And that is basically about 8 o'clock on the East Coast. It comes on about basically 8 o'clock here Pacific time. So we share the same time, the same air time for Dynamite. I don't know what time live-wise it came on out there. I can assume that it wasn't live exactly in New York. I can assure you of that. I think. Well, honestly, maybe it was live. I can tell you this: those people stayed up late last night then, because according to what Alex Hicks, just Alex, formerly the X-Man, said in his review, from what he understood. Basically, they were filming. They had filmed the first hour of Rampage before Dynamite, and they were filming the second hour after Dynamite. So we could assume that what we got was between 8 and 10, and then the second hour, the second hour of Dynamite that was taped was at 10 o'clock. And I can tell you this: if I'm CM Punk, I'm going to be sleeping on the way home. On the plane ride home. After tonight. I mean, I'm not saying that the wrestlers in any company are not used to that, because we all know that when WWE would decide to put on a 4-hour show, if not longer than that, sometimes those shows won't end till almost midnight. And those sometimes be mostly WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and maybe even the Royal Rumble. And maybe even Money in the Bank, the way they're going to be treating it. And the same goes with AEW. AEW's been known to do this too. They can start at 5 o'clock, and they won't end till about almost 8:30 or 9, because they want to give the matches time, and being I guess you could say, fan-oriented company, they want to make sure the fans get their money's worth. And sometimes whoever's booking the shows, pay-per-views and stuff for WWE, they try to do the same thing, but they also pan it out with, like promos and mini concerts and all that from, from celebrities or artists that they can get as a part of the show and everything. But besides that, though, like I said, I usually skip over, because I try to keep in the know here and there. And if I do get in the mood to watch it, I'll watch it mainly like with YouTube. YouTube's got wrestling shows on there at times that you get for free. Sometimes it's AEW will put on, not AEW, but Impact will put on a replay of the entire show on YouTube, depending on, what kind of show it is that they want you to catch up on because of its importance. The other thing, of course, AEW has Dark and Dark Elevation, so if I want to watch those, I will down the line. But then also you have all these other promotions. Like recently there was GCW versus Fist, and usually GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, has a lot of events on Fight. But this time it was on YouTube because I guess of an agreement with Fist. Basically, it culminated in a storyline to where whatever promotion won that night would have control of San Diego. I don't know if that means booking control, territorial control, whatever. But basically, GCW won, and I guess they now control the wrestling portion of San Diego, as far as like hardcore wrestling and stuff is concerned. And the main event had Nick Gage beat, I guess, the fifth representative of Ron McDonald, believe it or not. Basically a hardcore parody of Ronald McDonald, if you will. But anyway, besides that, again, I still keep up with it. I just don't, watch it as much as I, normally do. But then, when I was paying attention to social media tonight to see whether or not I should, because that's one way I look at it, look at the fact of, okay, should I watch it? Should I not watch it? And tonight, they basically said, yeah, you need to watch it. Because when they tweeted, everybody from Just Alex to Solomonster to Brian Alvarez, depending on how you feel about him, because I know there's mixed opinions about Alvarez, but from Alex, Solomonster to Greg Morgan, I think, to a lot of people that tweet this stuff out. When they said they were opening up with Danielson and Omega, I was like, huh? Excuse me? And my first thought was, okay, something's going to happen before the match occurs, and then they're going to, do the match at the end of the night, right? Nope. They decided to open the match. No, what I'm trying to say is, what I thought was going to be like, because usually one of these things, usually with a promotion with this WWE, AEW, Impact, MLW, New Japan, AAA, whoever, PWG, or even GCW and CZW, the hardcore promotions, ultra violent hardcore. Usually when they do these kind of matches, at the beginning, to kind of basically to the surprise of a lot of people, usually it's a bait and switch, because then, something happens, and then throughout the night, the storyline is whether or not the match is going to take place, and when it finally does, it's usually the last match of the night. And a part of me wishes they kind of did that, because honestly, I think CM Punk basically said it best. No one was going to be able to follow that, and honestly, no one could. I mean, the Danielson Omega match went off perfectly, without a hitch. I mean, just by watching this match, I can understand why guys like Danielson, formerly Daniel Bryan, want to go to AEW, because at least the promoter's like, hey, I'm willing to let you wrestle the style you want to wrestle and everything. And, that's what they did. But there were moments in this match where pretty much, I'm sure a lot of fans watching in attendance at Arthur Ashe Stadium, as well as watching at home, were like, see, what I'm trying to say is there were times I think a lot of those fans in attendance at Arthur Ashe and watching home were probably thinking, ooh, are you sure about being here, Brian? Are you kind of reconsidering, signing with this company for 3 years or whatever? Because some of the bumps Brian Danielson, Daniel Bryan took in this was like, I had seen him take some worse bumps, before in WWE in one-on-one matches, triple threats, fatal four-ways, tags. I've seen him take worse matches. I think we all have. But the fact that, he took those kind of bumps here in his debut for AEW in a non-title match, above all that, it was like, oof. It's like, you wonder, did he make the right decision in signing? I mean, yes, we got to see a side of him we haven't seen in a long time. A lot of people pointed out that we were seeing, him, bust out moves and submissions and counters that we'd not seen him do since he was, the American Dragon, prior to WWE and Ring of Honor on the Indies. And that was the one thing that they did hammer home a lot during this match, much to the enjoyment of fans in attendance at watching at home, or much to the chagrin and annoyance of fans, in attendance and watching at home, was they were hammering home the fact that this was Bryan Danielson. This was the American Dragon. Basically, trying to rub it in I guess to those non-AEW believers or supporters or whatever the case may be, the trolls. Basically, they were, shoving it in the face of WWE by saying American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. We have not, and pointing out things we'd not seen him do in a while because of things, because of where he was. Now, they did touch upon his neck issues, which, do result, or which were his well, what I'm trying to say is they did acknowledge his neck issues and injuries that were as a result of his time, not just in, WWE, but prior to that, and mostly were accelerated in his time in WWE. So that didn't, because some of the moves, like I said, were not doing his back or his neck any favors whatsoever. I mean, Danielson was taking bumps here that I had not seen him take in a long time, in a very long time. But here's the thing. The way Omega was competing as well, he was busting out moves and taking bumps that he had not taken in a while. I mean, yeah, as the match, continued on, got later on, yeah, he started to act a little bit like the Omega we've been seeing lately as part of the Super Elite, basically the one that's cocky and arrogant and, hey, I'm the best in the world kind of deal, right? He was starting to get into that mode, but anytime Danielson would start coming back, it's like it would basically like knock him out of it. It's like it would wake him up and be like, okay, I can't keep doing that with this guy because he has to keep on him. And overall, between these two, all I gotta say is if you haven't seen this show yet, if you've not seen this show yet, I'm gonna tell you right now. Go, after you watch this review, after you watch any review of this, go to your on-demand for TNT, if you have it part of your cable package or whatever, and watch this match. Watch this edition of Dynamite. It should be up there. Watch this match. Because me talking about it, guys like Solomon are talking about it, guys like Just Alex talking about it, Brian Zane, JD from NY206, OTRS Central, us just talking about it will not do it justice. It will not do it justice because you have to see this match to see exactly why this is one of the reasons that I tuned in to watch wrestling for the first time for a full 2 hours tonight or last night. This is why. I saw this and I was like blown away. I mean, again, some of the moves they were doing were crazy. I mean, you have, like I said, with the neck issue, you have Omega do a snapdragon German suplex on the entrance ramp, on the entranceway, going towards the ring on Danielson. And they basically emphasize that this is made of plexiglass, unbreakable plexiglass that's housing LED boards underneath. That's how much they wanted to hammer home the fact that move that was just executed, hurt like the Dickens, if you will. And then to top that off, Omega's like, okay, I know this is not going to finish him off because he's bouncing back up after everything I do. So what does he do? He goes up the ramp, like he's going to the back, gets a running start, hits a V trigger on Danielson. It was like, because you see him doing this and you're wondering, what is he doing? And what he's doing is he's building up momentum to run down and hit a massive V trigger. And he hit like 2-3 V triggers in this match, 2, 3, maybe 4 V triggers at separate times during this match on Danielson in very unique ways. One traditionally, one that, like I just mentioned, one with Danielson coming off the top rope. I mean, these guys pulled out all the stops. And like I said, they took, risk. They pulled out moves, and they took bumps I had not seen them take in a long, long time. I mean, Omega pulled out the freaking Phoenix Splash that, as Excalibur put it, he had not pulled out since his Lights Out match 2 years ago against Jon Moxley at Full Gear. That's how, that's how, basically, I can't even come up with the word to say. That's how huge and important this match was to both men. Because even in a non-title situation, Omega knew in storyline, hey, if I beat Danielson in his debut match, if I beat Daniel Bryan, a guy that's main evented WrestleMania on multiple occasions, has been a multiple-time world champion for that company, has been a Grand Slam champion in that company, if I beat him on his debut match, that's going to elevate me even higher. So he had to pull out all the stops. And Danielson, one thing he's always made clear is all he wanted to do was go against the best. Whether it was Omega in AEW, whether it's Omega in AAA or Andrade in AAA, whether it's Okada in Japan, whoever it may be, he wants to go against the best to prove that he still has it, that he still has one more run in him before he hangs it up. And that's why he probably signed a 3-year deal, because he knows within that 3 years he can accomplish all that, and that if he chooses to go back to WWE afterwards in a behind-the-scenes role, maybe to have one last match there, then he can go there with the satisfaction if he got to go out the way he was wanting to go out the whole time. And if this is an example of the way he wants to go out, or at least the first step in him wanting to go out the way he wants to, go before hanging up, then I can't think of a better way to give us an example, a taste of what's to come. Now, the unfortunate thing is, everybody in attendance at Arthur Ashe didn't like this, was it came to a time limit draw. It came to a 30-minute time limit draw, and I do agree that this does leave things open-ended for a rematch down the line. Now, we don't know when we're going to get that rematch or when it happens, but when it happens, I guarantee you, it is going to be fire. It is going to, honestly, it's going to have to do, I'll put it this way, Danielson and Omega are going to have to pull out every last move that they have. They're going to have to pick out every last trick in their bag. They're going to have to empty out the entire suitcase, have to empty out the entire basement, the entire attic in their home that houses every move, encounter and stuff that they utilize throughout their career. They're going to have to empty out those basements and attics in their house, where those moves, encounters are stored for when the rematch happens to try to top this. Because that's how good it was. Now, you did have the Elite come down and, basically save Omega from being put into the LeBell Lock, or, tapping again in the LeBell Lock, because they went to the draw, but they continued fighting, and Danielson got him into the LeBell Lock, formerly the Yes Lock, so the Elite had to come down and pull him off along with the officials, and Danielson had to, ended up in the corner, I think because it was cheap shot by Adam Cole, and then to try to put, a little bit of emphasis on the fact that, hey, we got to get Omega away from this guy, they decided to do a triple super kick on Danielson, that being the Bucks and Cole, in the corner, until Jurassic Express and Christian Cage come down to make the save. And those three are going to meet in a trios match, a 6-man tag, if you will, on Rampage Grand Slam Night 2 on Friday. So overall, this match was good, and I think CM Punk, when he came out next to do a promo to address his match on, so it's going to be on Rampage, he said it best. He's like, how are you going to, he's like, hey, I'm glad I'm not wrestling on Dynamite tonight, because how do you follow that? How do you follow that? And he got a good promo. I do agree with Jason Solomon that it's going to rub some people the wrong way, because he's like, pro wrestling is, he mentioned the fact that, he's glad to be back in New York City for the first time in a while. He's glad that pro wrestling is back in New York City. So, yeah, I do agree with Solomon that it's going to rub some people the wrong way, there's no doubt. But he definitely delivered a good promo. Basically stated that he's going to beat Powerhouse Hobbs on Friday on night 2 of the Grand Slam on Rampage. It was a decent promo. He basically said, "Look, Team Taz, they're trying to take this away from me. They're not going to do so. This is mine again. I'm not, this is mine again. I'm not going to let it go." It was just a very passionate promo. They got it up, I believe, by now. By the time you watch this on the YouTube page, that being AEW, so I would check it out. I would check it out honestly. Then the next match we had was basically MJF and Brian Pillman Jr. This was a good match. This was all right. It wasn't, on fire as, they potentially could have because they've had better matches. I'll put it that way. These guys actually faced each other before in MLW, Major League Wrestling, so they know each other very well. But this is the first time I think they have faced each other, or at least one of the first times they faced each other in AEW, and on a much bigger stage, I'll put it that way. And probably the largest crowd either one of them have been in front of in the entire careers. And these guys put on a decent match. MJF, worked on the shoulder of Pillman Jr. And when Pillman went to the top rope to try to execute the flying clothesline, and it wasn't to the top turnbuckle, it was the top rope, to do a springboard flying clothesline, similar to what his dad used to do at times, that being Flying Brian Sr., MJF caught him into the armbar and the Fujiwara armbar, what he calls the salt of the earth, and Brian Pillman tapped. Now, is this issue going to continue? Possibly, because I think the next one that might face MJF is going to be Pillman's partner Garrison. So I don't think MJF's out of this little mini feud just yet with the Varsity Blondes, because even though he got Pillman, he's got to face Garrison next because Garrison's going to want a piece of him. But we all know this is building potentially to a split between him and Waldrow down the line, because you need to put MJF in a profile, not a high profile match, but a decently sized profile match with a good story behind it. And options and you got only like 3 options in my opinion. You either got Sting, you either got CM Punk, or you got Waldo. And if we'll put a 4th option there, you got Darby Allin. Those are the options I think you have. You have Sting, you have CM Punk, Waldo, and Darby Allin. Those are your four options for MJF to have a match with, and a decent story with, going into Full Gear. So that match happened. What else happened? We had Cody Rhodes against Malachi Black. This was good. It was a good match. Brandy Rhodes came back. It's always good to see Brandy, if you know what I mean. It's always good to see Brandy. But I'll say this. I don't know if AEW has not learned anything from WWE, because I think if any of us can agree that if there's one thing AEW needs to learn from WWE's mistakes about certain, men and women that they try to, push as being baby faces, is that if the crowd don't like them, then don't try to, push the agenda. If they don't like them and they want to boo them, they want to hate them, then embrace it. I mean, AEW is supposed to be about the fans, right? If you're about the fans, give them what they want. Give them a heel Cody Rhodes. That's what they want. So yeah, do that. Do that. I think that would be more beneficial in the long run. But yes, this was a good match. It was all right. There was a moment where Anderson got on the ring apron and then he slipped off a little bit. I don't know if it was, planned that way or whatever. But he slipped off, and then Malachi kind of, threw Cody into him. Cody went to go check on him after he took Malachi down out of the ring. And, Anderson pushed him off, that being Cody, and said, "You get your ass back in the ring." So that's what Cody did. And he's continued to try to, continue the momentum on Malachi and all that. And the referee of course, got involved to try to stop Cody from over-exaggerating, kind of, and, basically the referee was doing his job, and Cody's, like, shoving him away, saying, like, get out of my way, don't get in my face, kind of tried to shove him off, and this was enough for Malachi to, spray some black mist into Cody's eyes and roll him up. Now, this does, in a sense, we like it or not, does keep Cody strong in the storyline, and it does culminate with another matchup, possibly at Full Gear, because, we all know, let's be honest, some of us may like Cody and may appreciate that he's broke off on its own. He's trying to utilize this company here, or use this company here to prove to everybody, including his former employer, that, hey, I can be a main event star, I can be a champion, I can be on the levels of a Triple H and all that. We know, we know that, he's, that's one of the reasons he's here, why he's doing this. And he also wants to give others that he feels, can identify with him, an opportunity to showcase their talents as well. We know that. But, but as much as we hate to admit it, all this is leading to is eventually Malachi losing to Cody at Full Gear, possibly very soon. Because, I think the one thing that Jeff Siegel, the Shag Daddy OTR Central, has said about this being very similar to Jeff Jarrett in TNA is that even if Jeff was to lose a match to the new talent, that eventually he always gets his win back. And even though right now Cody has not been able to beat him in story, that being Malachi Black, it's only a matter of time before Cody gets it back. I mean, Jeff, when he does his review, if he hasn't done it already, when he does his review this night, he's going to point out what the ending of this match and be like, that's nothing more than founder BS to keep Cody strong so that Cody eventually gets his win. And I hate to say this, but I have a feeling, and Jeff, if you watch this, I have a feeling Jeff's going to have to reinvent that, certain position for a certain American Nightmare, if you know what I mean. So that match happened, and then we had Sting and Darby Allin against FTR, and FTR was coming out wearing NWO inspired gear, and Sting and Darby came out with war paint, like face paint. Basically it's the face paint that you wear, but it had more of a camo war paint aesthetic, and it was a good match. Sting can definitely still go at his age, depending on the opponents. He didn't take too many bumps in this match, which was good, but, what he took, it didn't hurt him. And he delivered some good offense here. I mean, he delivered a spine buster, some stinger splashes, and it was decent. Darby was the one that basically took most of the offense from FTR. But in the end, Sting and Darby win. The way it happens is that Tully Blanchard hands, I think it's Dax Harwood, I believe. I think it's Dax Harwood. He hands him a chair. He wedges it in the corner because Sting's hitting these stinger splashes on both him and Cash Wheeler. And then he's just hit another one on Cash Wheeler. So Dax puts one behind him. Like, he wedges a chair behind him, goes like this. And Sting, obviously, you could see this. If there's one complaint some people do give AEW is the camera. Sometimes the camera angles are in certain positions they shouldn't be, because you could tell Sting notices the chair behind Dax. So when he goes for the Stinger Splash, Dax moves, but Sting, he stops himself, and Tully, is right there. He's holding the chair. He gets up on the apron, and he gets nailed by Sting. And then Sting locks Dax Wheeler into the Scorpion Deathlock. And, as Dax is trying to come in and save his partner, Darby Allin hits a coffin drop on Dax's back and head. Well, he's right there between the ropes and on the apron. So basically Dax is like this. Here he is on the ropes, under the bottom rope, right where the thing is. And Darby just comes right on down and hits him with a coffin drop and knocks him out. And this allows Sting to cinch in the Scorpion, and Wheeler taps. So it was a good match. And again, Sting didn't take too many bumps, thank goodness. But I think a lot of people would agree that Sting, watching that opening match, seeing Danielson take, was it one or two buckle bombs, if you will, probably didn't, give him some good memories to, didn't, oh, not good memories, but probably gave him some flashbacks to how his career temporarily ended for a while. So yeah, I think Sting didn't appreciate the vocal bomb moments in the Danielson Omega match because they probably brought back some bad memories. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, Sting and Darby win. Then we get the women's championship match, which main evented night one of the Grand Slam week here on Dynamite between Ruby Soho, formerly Ruby Riott, and the DMD, Dr. Britt Baker, with Rebel and what's her name again? That girl that I'm just gonna call her JH for short. And they had a good match. They had a good match. It wasn't the prettiest because you could tell there was some like miscommunications, a little bit of botching here, but not much to really take notice of. But overall, they had a good match, and yeah, and Ruby got to show, hey, if she was given a chance in WWE to be in this kind of position that, hey, this is what they could have had they not screwed her over or not, put her in catering or whatever the case was. So yeah, they had a decent match and everything. In the end, what happened is, of course, being a heel, despite the fans loving her, Rebel caused the distraction. She got the no future kick, just like Britt did before her. But this was enough to cause a distraction for JH, as I like to call her, for short, to basically grab, because Ruby took out. Okay, so here's the thing: Ruby hit the Riot Kick, now known as the No Future, on Britt. Then she hit it on Rebel for trying to get into the ring, but that caused a distraction because when she went to go after JH, being I guess the powerhouse of the group, grabbed her, yanked her down, and that was enough for Britt to catch her, lock her into the lockjaw, and get the tap out and the win. Now, some might say that this wasn't the best decision, that if you were going to main event them, you should have done the title change and all that. But the obvious plan in the eyes of a lot of people is to get to Baker and Rosa at Full Gear. However, what I think this does as well is it keeps Ruby strong, which is a good thing. Yes, she gets her first loss, but it keeps her strong and shows that she is capable of beating Britt if she doesn't have to deal with interference. But it also opens the door for possibly giving us a three-way dance, a three-way dance between these two ladies, with the addition of Thunder Rosa. So to me, I think that might be what we're getting at Full Gear. As much as a one-on-one Thunder Rosa Baker match would be for the title, which would allow Rosa to win, I think them going with the triple threat three-way dance, if you will, between the three, I think is a good option, if not, probably not a better option. Because one, if you decide to still give Rosa the title, she can pin Soho, and you keep Baker strong, because Baker then in storyline has a case of, hey, you didn't beat me, you beat her. You didn't pin me, you pinned her. So technically, I'm owed a one-on-one rematch. And then you can give us that one-on-one rematch on a special edition of Dynamite. Maybe Winter's Coming or Winter's End, whatever the case is. Basically another version of that Winter's deal that we got last year. And in that rematch on that show, you could have Rosa beat Baker cleanly to prove, hey, even though I beat Soho in the three-way to win the title, doesn't mean I can't beat you, which I just proved here. So, to me, I think the best solution, as much as a lot of us, including myself, would love to see Rosa and Baker one-on-one, I think the best solution is Soho, Baker, and Rosa, at Full Gear for the women's title. That's my opinion. But overall, I thought it was a decent 2 hours. There's one agreement, one thing a lot of people, I should say, that have reviewed the show already, that I will agree with, have talked about is after that opening match, even though the rest of the show was fun, it was decent, the 2 hours went quick, or the rest of the hour and a half, the rest of the 90 minutes of the show went quick, it kind of went down a little bit because, honestly, to quote CM Punk, how do you follow that opening match? So, yeah, it kind of got me invested to kind of continue watching, maybe give Rampage's 2 hours on Friday a chance and just go from there and, see what I do. But anyway, though, I thought it was all right. I thought it was a decent debut. Well, not just a decent debut, a great debut for them in New York. Although I think the structuring of the matches